Good morning. Today we are going to discuss third normal form. In the previous class, we discussed first normal form and second normal form. Now we are going to discuss third normal form. Here, before discussing third normal form, one of the properties of functional dependencies is if you have A determines B and B determines C implies A determines C. That means if B is functionally dependent on A and C is functionally dependent on B, then that means C is functionally dependent on A. That means this is transitivity rule. Transitivity rule. Okay. Now here this is the relationship and this social security number is the primary key. This social security number, so you know the social security number, you can determine the employee name, her birth date, his address. That means once you know the social security number, his name, birth date, address, and the department in which he is working. These things you can get it directly from this SSN. But here, this an employee with this social security number, he is working in this department. Okay. Now, this department name is dependent on department number and department manager social security number also depends on this. But see here social security number determines e-name, b-date, address and the department number in which he is working, and department name and department manager social security number, both of them depends on the department number. In this way, as SSN determines D number and D number determines D name, then definitely SSN determines D name, and SSN determines D number and D number determines D manager SSN, then SSN determines D manager SSN. That means here we don't have any partial dependency. So this is in second normal form, and this is not in third normal form because we have transitive dependency here. That means SSN determines D name, SSN determines D name, and D name determines, this is not D name, D number, and D number determines D name. That means SSN determines D number and D number determines D name implies SSN determines D name. Okay. So here this is transitive dependency. Okay. Then if a normal form or if a table is in second normal form and if you are removing transitive dependency from that, that will become third normal form. That means if a table or if a relationship is in third normal form, the first condition it has to satisfy is it should be in second normal form plus transitive dependency has to be avoided. Here in this table you have transitive dependencies. Now I am going to split that table into two. That means I am going to have say relationship R1 which is having SSN, E name, B date, address and D number. Okay, and another relationship R2. That means now social security number is the primary key for this. That means all this depends on social security number. Okay, so there is no transitive dependency. And now we are going to have another table R2 in which D number, D name, D MGR, SSN. So D number is the primary key here. That one determines D name as well as D manager SSN. That means now we have split this into two tables, and these two tables corresponds to R1 and R2, and here we don't have any transitive dependencies. Okay, here we don't have any transitive dependencies. And now if a table has to be in third normal form, third NF is, it should be in second normal form plus every non-key attribute is non-transitively dependent on the primary key. So that's third normal form. That means if a table has to be in first normal form, it should contain, that means every attribute values are atomic. Second normal form, first normal form plus you have to avoid partial dependency. A third normal form should be in second normal form, and you have to avoid or eliminate transitive dependencies. And the last one is Boy's code normal form. We are going to discuss the last one, which is BCNF. Boy's code normal form, BCNF. And the first condition it has to satisfy is it should be in third normal form plus some other condition has to be satisfied. Here, see, these are the functional dependencies. Here you have property number, state, load and area. Here in this case property number is the primary key. Property number, state in which that property is a part, and load number and area. Suppose that another dependency which is, if you know the state and the load number, if you know the state and load number, you can determine the property as well as area. That means this state and load number together can act as or can form a primary key. That means this is another, that means property ID determines state, load number and area. That is this dependency. That means this one determines state, load number and area. Another dependency is state and load number together. That's why we have drawn here like this. State and load number, that is the primary key. That one determines area and property. And another dependency is area determines state. Area, that means there may be a restriction for house plots. That means in some state the area is fixed, something like that. So if you know the area, you can determine the state in which that property is a part. That means area determines state. These are the dependencies. That means in BCNF, the condition is every, that means here if you have x determines a, that means x determines a, and this is the determinant. This is the determinant, and that means this a depends on this. This can act as the primary key, and we call it, if you have a functional dependency like this is called determinant. And in the case of BCNF, every determinant, as far as that table is concerned, every determinant should be a candidate key. Every determinant should be a candidate key. Here, the determinants are property number. Property number is a candidate key here. Here state and load number together forms another state load number. That also forms the candidate key for this. But area and state. Area determines state. Area is not area. Actually, area determines state. But area is not a candidate key for this table. Here, property number can be a primary key in this table, and state and load number together can also act as a primary key. But area determines state is another functional dependency. Here area is a determinant, but it cannot act as a primary key. It can't act as a primary key. So in that case, I am going to divide this into I am going to decompose this into R1. R1 is property number, load number, and area. Property number, load number, and area. And I am going to have another R2. Area, state. Now, when we have decomposed this table into two, you have decomposed it. Then you have two new tables R1 and R2. This decomposition should be dependency preserving as well as lossless decomposition and dependency preserving. And we are going to check whether dependency is preserved. That means here in this case now property number is the primary key, and here area is the primary key. That means here which one holds? Property number determines load number and area. Property number determines load number and area. R2 is area determines state. So this dependency is preserved and this also is preserved, but state and load number, here state and load number is not here, state and load number is not here, so this dependency is lost. So this is actually, it is not a dependency preserving decomposition, but after doing this, now property number is the primary key here and area is the primary key here. Now what are the dependencies here? Property number determines load number, property number determines area. Here what about R2? Area determines state. So here every determinant is a candidate key. In this table is in third normal form. Third normal form condition is there should not be any transitive dependency. Here we don't have any transitive dependencies, but here every determinant is not a candidate key, because here property number is a candidate key, state and load number together act as a candidate key, but area is a determinant. Area determines state. Okay, area is not a candidate key. In that case, as this is not a candidate key, you have to split it. Okay, so if you have a number of dependencies in a table and if it has to be in third norm in BCNF, then every determinant, as far as that relationship is concerned, every determinant should be a candidate key. Otherwise, it is not in Boy's code a normal form. So it should be in third normal form plus the condition is, if it has to be in third normal form plus every determinant is a candidate key. Okay, every determinant is a candidate key. So as far as first, second, third and Boy's code normal form, BCNF is the most refined one. Third normal form, second normal form and first normal form. And they may ask, what is the, if you don't want updation, insertion, deletion anomalies, what should be the minimum criterion, or what should be the minimal normal form it has to achieve. That is the normal form. There is no need to go for Boy's code a normal form. And if you are designing a good database, then you have to normalize that up to third normal form. Okay, thank you.